Writers' rooms are fun, and it's like everything. I mean, there's no two are identical, but generally speaking, I mean, most writers' room hours are like 10 to 6, 10 to 5, 10 to 7, somewhere in there. And it's generally, people sit around a big conference table. Sometimes there's couches. There's a lot of whiteboards surrounding the room. You have your writing staff. There's a writer's assistant whose job it is to take notes throughout the whole thing. They're kind of a stenographer, and they record and take notes of everything people are talking about. And then somebody will stand at the whiteboard and kind of write. They don't write everything people say. They just write kind of the bullet points of, whatever thing we're trying to solve, whatever story point we're developing. And someone will sort of lead the room. It's either the showrunner or their number two, or sometimes writers' rooms work where whoever's writing that episode will kind of lead the room. And you just, a typical episode we start with what's called Blue Sky, where we just talk very vaguely about like what are some things that could happen in this episode, what do we want to see. And then once we blue sky for a day or two, then we zero in on, okay, this is kind of what we want to do. And then it's a matter of, sometimes we'll start with the theme. What's thematically, what are we saying this episode? What's the theme of the episode? So that all of our character stories and all the plot points can all kind of resonate around this single theme. And once we establish a theme, we can talk about our characters and what their own emotional journeys are going to be relating to that theme. And then we can get into actual plot and, what are our characters going to be facing, and who's the bad guy, and what does the bad guy want, and how do we stop the bad guy from getting it? And just literally nuts and bolts storytelling. And we work for a few hours and then, take an hour for lunch. And some shows, the writer's room all eat together around the conference table. Other shows, people split up and go back to their offices and go for a walk or whatever. And then you resume in the afternoon. Somebody usually brings coffee in the middle of the day. And it's not too rigid. There's a lot of goofing around and talking and sharing stories, and all of that stuff is important because the best storytelling and the best writing comes from when you can be comfortable and honest with your other writers, and you can reveal things about your own life and say, hey, this thing happened to me this one time, and here's how it made me feel. And if we can tap into that emotion in this storyline, maybe we do something similar. So you want kind of a safe space among your peers so that you can share things and get emotionally honest. That's how a writer's room will work best. And then generally, once you have an episode broken, once, it takes a week or so to kind of hammer out the details of an episode, then whoever's writing that episode sort of tags out of the room and goes off for a week or so and writes the script, while the rest of the writer's room repeats that process for the next episode. And when the writer of that previous episode is done, they turn it into the showrunner and they do a round of notes and have to do revisions. And on some shows, that writer will then go to set and shepherd that episode through production. Other shows don't send writers to set, and that writer will then just rotate right back into the writer's room and help break the next episode until they're at bat for their own. So it's always kind of a circle. People are cycling in and out of the room constantly.
Make sure to check out the My Career tab on the BC Navigator app, where you can track your career progress based on the amount of credits you've earned, stay updated on upcoming events from the Magner Center, and watch our videos for insight and advice on your career field.